Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you are here with us. The idea of teaching a live class has been rolling around in my mind and in my heart for quite a few years. The live participation was really great because we could really communicate one with another. The participants had an opportunity to contribute their thoughts on how to post process their own flower or each other's flowers. The inspiration that you get looking at the different flowers and seeing what's possible helps you to develop your own vision. This course is intended to help you learn the steps to creating a floral portrait. Please remember that the more you practice, the more you will learn. And the more you learn, the more capacity you have to learn. So I'd like to start with our first participant, Sarah. Sarah's going to share a few words with us.
Hi, everybody. I thoroughly enjoyed this summer school. It was the highlight of the week. It was fun, yet it was a stretch. There were new things to learn. There were edits and techniques that I kind of knew the end result, but Rosie knows the most efficient way to get there and the most effective way to get there. And that was really fun to learn. And it gives you new things to try and new things to incorporate into your own workflow.
Judith, can I ask you to share something in your heart right now?
Hi, I'm Judith. Summer school certainly is sessions to inspire, and it certainly lifted my creative block. There's so much to take in from the summer school, so many new ways to approach post-processing, and I continue to discover something new every time I rewatch the sessions. I think, oh, how did I miss that before? So it's great to be able to go back and rewatch. But if I narrow down the key takeaways for me, I've always struggled with selection techniques, and Rosie, you showed us a number of ways of removing backgrounds, whether it be through the cloud, selecting the subject and contracting pixels. And I think I've watched the demonstration of Andrew's coneflower several times, how you made the petals so much cleaner, but also you added petals to create a full image. And that was a bit of a wow, you could actually do that, you know. Secondly, the use of texture. It opened up a whole new world using textures on top of an image to give that ethereal look. And I just love what you do with textures. And I think you also used a grey layer as well, which I never considered before. And lastly, I think it's really taking the time to look at your subject before you start, and that's in the garden as well as on the screen. And sometimes I have a tendency to jump in and start processing, but now I understand how important it is just to take the time to sit back and explore possibilities, how it might look better. Would it look better if it was flipped? Would it look better if it was repositioned? How to crop it? What crop to use? I mean, I could go on and on and on. And also using light to lift the flower in different ways and the way you used your brushes. So I'm working on a personal project with a camera club at the moment, and there's no way I could achieve the outcomes to the level that I'm getting to if I hadn't have participated in the summer school and had your encouragement and the knowledge that you've so generously shared during those sessions. So thank you, Rosie.
Abby, would you like to share?
Yes, I'd love to share. One of the things I have trouble with is short-term memory and remembering. So, having participated in summer school, having the repetitive nature as far as where you begin right from the beginning, all the basic adjustments every week, and not being thrown a million things helps me to remember the different actions, the selection ways you can, isolate a flower, the different tools you provided are, while you think are basic in some ways, they're not. And just having them at your fingertips has really helped me. And seeing the way your vision is and asking us for input, but seeing your vision is, in transforming what someone has sent to you, what people submitted, it's it's a joy. So I learned a lot and I was inspired a lot, just the way you take a flower and how you transform it. And I just love all the tools that you talk about and that are really part of the workflow. And that's helped me a lot.
Debbie, if you can share something with us.
Again, like everyone else, I really enjoyed the summer school session. I've been photographing flowers for a while, and I do know Lightroom and Photoshop. However, I feel like I hit a roadblock as far as wanting to go to the next level with being more creative and artistic with my flowers. But I struggled, and I think just learning in an interactive way with other students, since we are the students, and having Rosie show us how to reimagine our images, and then showing us the steps and the techniques that you need to use, whether you use ACR or Lightroom, but also in Photoshop, was really, really helpful. And it just helped me to see what's possible with my photographs, and also just watching her and listening to her vision of reimagining our flowers was really helpful, because it's really helping me to see things differently when I'm going out to photograph and when I'm sitting in front of my computer. And I know one of the biggest things that we all learned, really, in order to elevate our image, it's a very simple thing, but I think it's something that we don't pay enough attention to, is having enough light, and that's, and you can see it, the difference between a photograph that has the light that Rosie showed us how to take it to the next level with adding that light. If you compare it to photographs that you see out on the internet, there is a major difference. And so I'm still in the process of training my eye to see the amount of light or the absence of light. It was great because she provided us with these actions and just gave us the tools to make our editing and processing simpler. And it was a really great experience. And she's an excellent teacher. And I've taken other classes from other instructors, but Rosie really knows how to envision the creative artistry of flowers. And I've not gotten that from anybody else. And the thing I truly, really appreciate is that she really cares about her students. So it's not a one and done, you buy a course and then, you're done, right? You're kind of stuck on your own. You can reach out to her with questions. She's really invested in helping us all develop our skills. And the other thing that she really ingrained into us during the summer school session, which I thought was really important, is that you really have to spend time practicing. I know, like practicing not only on the photographs that we had during the summer school session, but then practicing our own photographs. And I think that's really an important thing to have as far as, when you're learning something new. So thank you so much, Rosie. It was fantastic.
Okay, and we have Pat.
Hello, everyone. I would start by saying ditto. What everyone else said, I felt the same way. I could have used the same words. But what I also want to add is that the best part for me was that I gained the confidence to evaluate an image and then reimagine it to where I wanted to take it, and to bring that vision to life with the methods and the tools that we learned through these sessions. So for me, this course was a game changer because it has made a difference in the outcomes. When I look at the final product of my images, I can say, yeah, I have a portrait, a floral portrait. So that was very meaningful to me. Of my images, I can say I have a floral portrait. So that was very meaningful to me. I really enjoyed watching the post-processing process transformation of all of the flowers. No matter whether it was my image or if it was one of my classmates, watching Rosie take an image to the next level was like the big reveal, or like a ta-da kind of moment. I mean, it was magic, and it was really a lot of fun. So I'm also very thankful for this type of format with the classmates, because they very often asked the questions that I was thinking about, but was too shy. So a shout out to you all and to say thank you. I really appreciate it. If you ask me what was my favorite tool, I would say that it has to be Rosie's action set, especially the blur with glow action. This whole action set streamlines a lot of the processes and makes it easier, but the blur with glow is just a lot of fun. So I think you'll enjoy it. I hope that you have heard in my voice an excitement and that we had a lot of fun. There was a lot of work involved too, and a lot of practice, as Debbie said, but I really, really enjoyed it. And with that, I'm going to be the first one to sign up for the next class. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to
Oh,
share my experience, guys.
thank you all for sharing. I do want to share what I did with Pat's image. And this was her image straight out of the camera. And like most of us, needs light. I do my best to make sure that I'm shooting with enough light in my camera. But you know what? Sometimes you just miss the mark. So it's good to know how to bring an image from this to this. There were a number of different steps here, and I'd like to go through those steps with you. So obviously we know that this is Pat's SOOC, or the image straight out of camera. Just with local and global lighting in Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, this is what we got. I did use masks for local lighting I use ACR, but Lightroom is exactly the same. So you have those masks there, and I'm convinced people do not know how to light an image locally. There is no consideration given to this little nook and cranny here and that one over there that's too light or not light enough. For those reasons, I spent a lot of time in these sessions working in Adobe Camera Raw. And again, Lightroom is the same thing, because I wanted everyone to understand that without this light, it doesn't matter what you do to this image. You cannot make it look good if there is not enough light. The next thing I did is I brought the image into Photoshop, and I did a 4x5 crop of what her SOOC image was. And I removed the little extra bud that was up here. You can see in Pat's image, there were two buds here, so I removed the second bud. I added a deliberately blurred flower image for the background texture. And here, I'm going to go back to the previous image, and I want you to look right here. See how thin this stem is and where this one is coming down? I felt like what I was saying is that the stem should come here, and this one should be widened. So in the last step, I brought this stem down on an angle, and I widened this stem. Pat, could you just give me your take on what you thought about all of this?
I absolutely love this reimagining. And if I could have, this is exactly how I would have visioned it. The lighting, again, this was a good example of how I did not see where possibilities of where the light should be. This is a really great example of what Debbie was talking about earlier. And I just want to point out that on this first night, this is an image from the first night, and everything here that we learned were tools that we could now put in our toolbox. But in terms of just the light, there were three ways that we learned. It was through a levels adjustment, a 50% gray layer, and also using the adjustment brush. Those were just three things from that very first night, and I was just bowled over. So absolutely excited about where the direction that this went, and still loving it today.
Awesome. Thank you. The next image that I want to share with you was by Walter. This was Walter's original image. It's very nice. He shot it in his own yard. It's his garden petunia. But I saw the possibilities that there was so much more there. And this is what I created. So again, I'd like to take you through the steps of what I did to get this image to where it is. Again, this was Walter's SOOC. And I combined 4 different deliberately blurred flower textures to create a complementary background for him. This was the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. Combining them together in Photoshop, I was able to get this. This actually worked so well as the background image for this flower. I cut the flower out and I added it to the texture, and I could see that we're still missing light, but we're missing what I call pop. You can either have light or dark pop. And in this image, I was actually looking for both. My next option was to use Rosie's blur and glow action. And this is what we got from that. Finally, I took a 50% gray layer and I added both light and dark to bring out just highlights here in the petals, and then keep darker areas subdued so that they were not fighting with the image. I'm going to do a demonstration of how this works and how easy it is to apply this action. Here's Walter's image where I said I know it needed some pop. All I need to do is to use my blur with glow action. And as you can see, I've identified the action and assigned it to a function key on my keyboard, and that is F5. So although I can just click here and the action will play, I'm going to just touch F5 on my keyboard, and there is the action come to life. Now, this is an action that is set to soft light at all times. However, I went into several lessons where I talked about the blend modes in Photoshop. And one of the ones that I really like to use that brings a lot of blur is multiply. Now you would think that doesn't seem right. Well, first of all, I'm going to lower the opacity of this a little bit. But you'll also see that my action has a built-in levels adjustment layer. And as I bring the levels up, look at the glow and the blur that happens here. Now, not so much in the leaves, but certainly in the flower. Next, if I touch the F3 key on my keyboard, that gives me a 50% gray layer. Now, 50% gray layer is intended to work with either white paint or black paint. So I'm going to make sure that the foreground color that I have in Photoshop is white. And at 10% opacity, I'm just going to tap in these areas to just add a little bit more light here. Then, touching the X on my keyboard, I should have black as my foreground color, where I'm going to go in to take the darker areas and further darken them. I'm also going to use a very large brush and just add a bit of darkness here to make what one might call a vignette. And this is where we started, and this is the finished image. Now we have Debbie's beautiful yellow peony. When I saw Debbie's image, I saw so much potential. This is what I saw as a finished image. And I'm going to take you through the steps of how I got here. This is Debbie's SOOC. And the first thing that I did is I rotated it to the left, or counterclockwise, and I used Generative Expand AI in Photoshop, which gave me the leaves. As you can see on her original image, these leaves in the center and the one here on the right were cut off. From here, I expanded the image and I put the flower cutout on the texture. But we're not done. There was another texture that I had, and so I put it on top of the flower to make this cohesive, beautiful blur and yet still keep the light in the focus on the center of the flower. Finally, I added my blur with glow to this, and I added a little bit more lighting. And so, Debbie, if you could just share with everyone what your thoughts are on the process of this image.
Sure. When I photographed that flower, by the way, it was in such an awkward spot of a garden. Like, I'm lucky I even got that photograph, and I took it because I thought the flower was so beautiful, but I absolutely had no idea what I was going to do with it. I already knew that you could cut flowers out and such, but I was really not comfortable with that. And I would never have thought to really rotate it that way. I know Rosie always says chin up, but I didn't have the knowledge or the skills to be able to bring it to an image that she did. And I love it. I think it's beautiful. I love soft backgrounds. I'm excited because now I can do something more creative, and it's just techniques in there that she showed us with the generative expand, a lot of the new AI things in Photoshop that have little nuances that I would never have known about. Also, there's just so many things that this one image that she worked on has taught me. So I really appreciate it. It's great. I love it.
I want to just elaborate a little bit. I chafe sometimes when I hear the phrase, get it right in camera. I would if I could, but there are so many times when you just can't. Whatever the reason may be. Could you get closer? Sure, but not every flower is a close-up. There are times when we need to have multiple flowers in one image. There are times when flower just needs length and breadth and width, and the only way you can do that is if you do it in post-production. I just want all of you to know that as we post-process, we see things that make us better photographers, but also as we photograph, we become less afraid of taking an image because we think, oh, gee, I don't know. What am I going to do with this? Well, here's some answers of things that you can do with it. What's included in the course? Everything that's in it does not expire. You don't have to pay every year to use it or every month to use it. Once you purchase it, it is there. There are 12 instructional videos. You have access to the flowers. You will get my action set. What is the cost of the course? The cost of the non-expiring course is $325. But if you've purchased Painting Flowers in Photoshop, you can receive a $40 discount off your purchase. If you have not purchased the Perfection Bundle, which is 17 lessons using flowers to teach you the basics of Photoshop, you will receive it with my compliments. Thank you again, all of you, for coming. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thanks, everyone.